Tonight, a 27-year-old man killed in a coal mining accident in the Bowen Basin. One step closer to the White House, a landslide victory for Donald Trump in the Iowa Republican caucuses. Succession actor Sarah Snook adds another trophy to her cabinet. And the spectator seating changes at the Australian Open that are causing headaches on the court. Good evening, Lexy Hamilton-Smith with ABC News. A 27-year-old man has been killed in a coal mining accident in central Queensland. The young worker was pinned between two vehicles at the Saraji mine near Dysart. He was rushed to hospital but could not be saved. From Dysart, Hannah Walsh reports.
Remembered as an absolute legend and a champion bloke, the family and friends of Luke O'Brien are in mourning.
I feel very sad for the family, and for sure the community will feel the loss.
It'll just be a really hard-hitting thing for the community, as it is any time someone passes away.
The 27-year-old was pinned between two vehicles while working at the Saraji coal mine near Dysart in the Bowen Basin yesterday afternoon. He was taken to hospital but died from critical injuries.
Things like this always ripple through little communities and the industry as a whole, but first and foremost our condolences go out to the family and friends and colleagues of the person who's passed.
Can I, on behalf of all Queenslanders, express my condolences to the family and friends of the man who tragically lost his life at the Saraji mine.
In a statement, the coal mine's operator BMA Asset said it offers its deepest sympathy to the workers' family, friends and colleagues and is working with relevant authorities.
And when it happens, it's always devastating. You know, at the end of the shift, there's a coal miner who hasn't made it home. So it's obviously a devastating impact on everyone.
Operations at Saraji mine remain suspended as an investigation gets underway. It's unclear when work will resume. Hannah Walsh, ABC News, Dysart.
Overseas now, and Donald Trump has won the first big test of the US election year, taking out the Iowa caucus by a huge margin. The former US president beat his main rivals, Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, with the Florida governor coming a distant second tonight. North America correspondent Jade McMillan reports from Des Moines, Iowa.
A resounding victory for the overwhelming favourite. Donald Trump easily beat his Republican rivals in Iowa, picking up more than 50% of the vote.
We want to thank the great people of Iowa. Thank you. We love you all.
In some areas, it was over before it began. Voters at this high school gym outside Des Moines hadn't even cast their ballots before US networks started calling the race for the former president.
CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the Iowa caucuses.
A furious Ron DeSantis described the declarations just half an hour into the caucuses as election interference. But the Florida governor managed to defy expectations and come in a distant second.
In spite of all of that they threw at us, everyone against us, we've got our ticket punched out of Iowa.
Iowa has been in the national spotlight for months, but attention has already moved on to the next stage of this race, with Republicans in New Hampshire voting next week.
Polls suggest Donald Trump will face a much tougher contest there against his former United Nations ambassador, Nikki Haley.
Tonight, I will be back in the great state of New Hampshire. And the question before Americans is now very clear. Do you want more of the same?
But there'll be one less candidate moving on from Iowa after the fourth-placed Vivek Ramaswamy dropped out.
There is no path for me to be the next president.
Donald Trump will head to New Hampshire after stopping in New York for a defamation trial brought by a woman he's been found liable to have sexually abused. Neither that case nor the 4 sets of criminal charges he's facing have shaken the support of his many backers. Jade McMillan, ABC News, Des Moines, Iowa.
Back home, and police have arrested a man who allegedly vandalised a Brisbane Woolworths store with graffiti and set a flare off under the door. Police allege the 40-year-old Ormiston man set off a flare at the Tenerife store early on Monday morning. Nearby residents were evacuated and the store was closed for the day. The man is charged with willful damage by graffiti and is expected to appear in court next month. It comes after the Woolworths Group announced its stores would not stock specific Australia Day merchandise. A 3-year-old girl has been discharged from hospital after a severe allergic reaction to a jellyfish sting on Gari. Luna Murray was reunited with family this morning after 3 days in hospital recovering from a suspected irukandji sting. The South Australian toddler went into anaphylactic shock after she was stung in the waters off the island on Sunday. Her mother is urging authorities to do more after a spate of jellyfish stings in recent days, including a teenager who was airlifted to hospital today.
There's no signs, there's no wash stations, there's no vinegar. I relied upon my 11-year-old daughter to run along to ask other campers if they had any vinegar.
Health advocates are pleading for doctors to consider a move to regional areas, with a central Queensland maternity service still on bypass after more than 18 months. Billawheeler residents remain without answers, and at least one couple is reconsidering their desire to have a baby.
Billawheeler locals Katie and Lockie Craig want another baby, but there's one thing stopping them.
The fact that the Billow Hospital wouldn't be an option at this point just really scares me.
Katie gave birth to 1.5-year-old Dougie via an emergency caesarean just 3 weeks before the hospital's maternity service went on bypass. He was flown to Brisbane, where he spent 10 weeks in intensive care. The new mum says she fears for what would have happened if the services weren't open.
I probably would have given birth on the side of the road, and with a baby at 27 plus 6 weeks gestation, there's no way that he could survive.
Giving birth in central Queensland has been a long-standing complication. It's been more than 16 months since parents have been able to deliver at the Billawheeler Hospital. Nearby, Gladstone's maternity service was on bypass for more than 6 months, but reopened last year.
Central Queensland is a fast-spread geographical location, so it's not just the Billawheeler community itself, but the extended community around Billawheeler.
In June last year, the Queensland Government announced a $42 million funding boost for regional maternity services. Despite that, the Billawheeler Hospital has been unable to find a GP with obstetric skills. This would allow them to reopen their services.
We would really encourage anyone who's considering working in Billawheeler to reach out to the Central Queensland Health and Hospital Service or ourselves and start those conversations. It's a fantastic community.
Without a local service, Katie and Lockie say if they fall pregnant, they would relocate to a bigger town months before their next baby is due.
So that I do have access to the health services that I may require, and I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Scout Wallen, ABC News, Billawheeler.
The Prime Minister says he'll convene an urgent meeting with the states over a dramatic rise in the nation's road toll. Overnight in New South Wales, 5 people died in 3 separate crashes. In the last year, more than 1,200 people were killed on Australia's roads.
Dozens of teenagers gathered in grief, staring at the site where 2 young friends lost their lives. Hours earlier, their Nissan sedan slammed into a power pole in Sydney's northwest after colliding with another car.
Speed may be a factor where the Nissan has lost control and crashed into the rear of a Ford Falcon.
2 teenage boys who were passengers in the car died at the scene. The 17-year-old driver was taken to hospital with serious injuries but is expected to recover.
Upon his discharge, Crash Investigation Unit officers will be interviewing him.
The crash happened at 9:40 p.m. 4.5 hours earlier, a man and a woman were killed when their car crashed into a truck in Hay. And a little over 2 hours before, a 77-year-old man was killed when his station wagon hit an SUV in Cowra.
Police say the underlying cause of all 3 crashes was driver error, and there are calls for specific data on the cause of every fatal crash to be made public so experts can analyse how to prevent them.
New data released this week shows more than 1,200 people died in crashes across the country last year. That's an increase of 7% on the year before. Doctors say an increase in hospitalisations is also having an impact on other types of surgery.
Each hospital has a set number of intensive care unit beds. It has a set number of theatres, and therefore if there is more emergency work and more trauma to be done, then something has to give.
The federal government says it's working on a national strategy.
The road toll has been increasing, there is no doubt about that, and some states are doing a little better than others.
Driver behaviour and personal responsibility are important factors as well. Getting that message across is absolutely critical.
A message that could save lives. Leah Harris, ABC News, Sydney.
Police have released vision of alleged thieves attempting to hide stolen vehicles on a property south of Brisbane hours before they were arrested at the weekend. Police seized 5 stolen cars and a stolen motorbike at the Logan Village property and arrested 4 men. They appeared in the Beenleigh Magistrates Court today. The vehicles are expected to be returned to their owners.
Those vehicles were stolen between October, the 5th of October, through to very recently, and stolen as broadly as northern New South Wales.
A days-old ceasefire halting Myanmar's vicious civil war is already showing signs of collapse. The truce was brokered after the military faced its heaviest losses since seizing power in a coup in 2021, but rebel groups say the junta is now launching fresh attacks in Myanmar's northeast.
Commander Mong Song Kar is an unlikely warrior in a war he never wanted.
I don't truly have a yearning for the life of a soldier. Becoming one is an unfortunate trick of fate in this journey.
Once an anti-war poet, he's now on the front lines of a civil conflict that's raged in his country since Myanmar's military seized power in a coup almost 3 years ago.
Being an armed resistance fighter is just a temporary phase of my life. I find it challenging to sit and write poetry.
The junta has killed thousands and imprisoned hundreds more. But resistance forces like Mong Song Kar's have been fighting back alongside a military coalition known as the Three Brotherhood Alliance. Last week, that alliance agreed to a ceasefire with the military after achieving its biggest victories yet, forcing the junta to surrender several towns, including scam city Laokai, near the Chinese border.
When you combine the mass surrenders and defections with the battlefield losses that the military junta has been experiencing throughout the country in recent months, it paints an unprecedented picture.
What we are seeing is the Myanmar military being forced to make some very difficult, some very painful choices about where it stands and fights and where it just retreats.
Human rights groups say they've been collecting evidence of possible war crimes. A spokesperson for the Department of Foreign Affairs said the Australian government strongly condemns the ongoing repression and violence by the Myanmar regime and supports measures to ensure accountability for international crimes committed in Myanmar. Mong Song Kar still writes poetry when he can, but no one knows how this story ends.
Even if I were to perish in the armed revolution, I wish to be remembered as a poet on my tombstone.
Lauren Day, ABC News.
A ballistic missile fired by Yemen's Houthi rebels has struck a US-owned container ship in the Gulf of Aden. The attack further escalates tensions in the Red Sea, where the rebels have been targeting vessels it says are linked to Israel. The Houthis say they're expanding their targets after US and British airstrikes on their positions in Yemen. A military spokesman says American and British ships are now all considered to be hostile.
The Yemeni armed forces emphasise that the response to the American and British offences is certainly coming, and any new aggression won't pass without a response and punishment.
It's been a big week for Australian actress Sarah Snook winning a Golden Globe, the Critics' Choice Award, and tonight stealing the trifecta with an Emmy. Hollywood has finally come together for the 75th Emmy Awards, delayed from last year by the writers' strike.
Honouring the prime of prime time.
The shows that kept us glued to the tube.
hosted by comedian Anthony Anderson, with a novel way of getting celebrities to wind up their acceptance speeches.
This year, I've got something that nobody can ignore. My mama.
Australian actress Elizabeth Debicki missed out for her portrayal of Princess Diana in The Crown. Instead, Best Supporting Actress in a Drama Series went to Jennifer Coolidge for her role in The White Lotus.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to play this incredible character, and he says I'm definitely dead, so I'm going along with it. I know I'm getting wrap it up. Okay, yes, okay.
Baby.
Yes, and I just...
I love you, baby, but time.
Okay, guess what?
Succession.
It was the media dynasty drama Succession about the cutthroat Roy family that triumphed, with 6 awards, including the prestigious Best Drama trophy.
We are so honoured. We've loved making this show. Thank you very much indeed.
Stellar cast. I must make special mention to my on-screen wife, Sarah Snook.
Sarah Snook, Succession.
Australian Sarah Snook took home the Best Actress trophy, paying tribute to her parents.
Thank you for having a dress-up box when I was a kid. I think this is where it gets you.
And her young daughter.
It's all for you from here on out. Thank you.
Both The Bear and Beef won 5 awards each.
Ali Wong.
Ali Wong becoming the first woman of Asian descent to win an Emmy in a lead role.
Cheers!
And in a nod to the past...
Anthony, thank you for getting us all here. Being together brings back some great memories of a show we're all very proud of.
Celebrating not only today's best in television, but also remembering loved classics. Joni Jones, ABC News.
To finance now, and there was a fairly significant drop on the share market today, while consumer sentiment has fallen to very low levels typically seen during a recession. Here's David Chow.
There's a lot of doom and gloom on the minds of Australian consumers, which isn't very good for business. Right now, the number of pessimists out there far outweighs the number of optimists, according to the latest Westpac Melbourne Institute consumer survey. Cost of living pressures and interest rate anxiety are clearly eating into their budgets and future spending intentions. It's almost as if we were living through some kind of a recession. Interestingly, out of the 1,200 people surveyed, more than half of them are expecting their mortgage repayments to keep rising, even though financial markets are speculating there could be 2 interest rate cuts from the Reserve Bank by the end of this year. So quite a big divide there. Meanwhile, there was also a bit of pessimism for the share market, which fell to a 4-week low after the All Ords and ASX 200 fell by a pretty steep 1.1% today. Not many companies did well, but the biggest drags on the market were mining stocks like BHP, Rio and Fortescue, due to a drop in commodity prices. In particular, iron ore, which is going through a correction, and it's fallen to a 6-week low on concerns about the health of the Chinese economy. Overseas, Wall Street was closed for a public holiday, while markets in Europe and Asia slipped. And finally, the Aussie dollar also took a dive. It's trading at just over 66 US cents, which is its weakest level in a month. And that's finance.
Coming up on 7:30, the Thai national who spent 51 days as a hostage in Gaza.
แกกำลังเดินไปจับประตูแค่นั้นนะครับบุ๊บเข้ามาเลยยกมือบอกว่าไทยแลนด์เนี่ยเขาไม่ฟังนะครับแบบมาถึงก็แบบเตะก่อนเลยครับคนแรกที่เข้ามานะระเบิดถือเข้ามาดึงสลัดนะครับโอ้โหใจผมแบบหายปุ๊บเลยครับบอกว่าโอ้โหตายแบบผมคิดอย่างเดียวคือว่าผมตายเนี่ยวันนั้นแบบเป็นเศษเนี่ยวันนั้น
To sport now, and Australian Open organisers have defended changes to spectator seating between games after a player took issue with the new rules. Australia's Jordan Thompson hit out at the policy, which now allows fans to move in and out of stadiums much more easily.
Getting into the tennis can be a waiting game.
Sometimes you want to go and grab something to drink.
Going to the toilet, having a wander around to see what entertainment.
Take in the atmosphere. But it's now easier to get your seat. Fans can come in and out every game instead of every second game when the players switch ends. Not everyone's happy.
Oh my God, this is the wokest one.
Jordan Thompson may have misused the word woke, but his frustration is clear. joining the likes of Novak Djokovic in voicing his opposition to the extra movement and noise.
We're out there working, like that's our job, we're tennis players. We don't come in and storm into an office while someone's in a meeting.
If it's not going to disrupt the players, that's a reasonable thing.
We don't really like it.
Yeah, a little bit distracting, I think, for the
yeah.
players.
On the sides of the courts, I'm in favour, and I've been saying this now for a year or so, that should be open. People should be able to come and go as they please, as if they're going to a basketball or a football game.
Fans brought the noise for Australian Max Purcell.
There it is.
It took Purcell 3 agonising attempts to seal his first singles victory. James McCabe has been knocked out in 4 sets in his slam debut, and fellow Australian wildcard Olivia Gadecki was no match for former US Open champion Sloane Stephens. The top women's seed is also through to the second round. Iga Swiatek passing a tough test against former champion Sophia Kenin. Another former champion, Naomi Osaka, gave a frank assessment of her Grand Slam comeback.
Of course, there's a voice in my head, so that's who are you to think that you can come back and immediately start winning matches?
Osaka, who gave birth to her first child in July, lost to Caroline Garcia in her return to a major tournament. Tom Maddox, ABC News, Melbourne Park.
The West Indies have named 3 debutantes for the opening test at Adelaide Oval tomorrow, and captain Craig Brathwaite expects them to show plenty of fight. Australian captain Pat Cummins says he doesn't know what to expect from the visitors, but he's backed both Steve Smith and Cameron Green to perform in their new roles for the home side.
Steve Smith puts in some final touches as he begins a new chapter of his career as a test opener.
It's a new challenge for him, which I don't think you can underestimate. I've never seen him, it's as happy and as energetic. I've seen him around the nets the last couple of days. He can't wait to get out there.
Pat Cummins today confirming Smith will open against the West Indies, while Cameron Green comes into Smith's place at number 4. The Australian captain says he's confident Green will fire in his position and has no doubt Smith will extend his career as an opener.
Our intention isn't just to give this a test or two and see how it goes. We want to make sure it's a shift that's pretty much permanent, and we want to give it a good crack, and not only for Steve but for Green and the rest of the order.
It's a new position for him, so we like to come out in as hard as possible. We got to come at all the batsmen.
Australia's side looked relaxed in its final net session today and even mixed with some fans, signing autographs for one lucky supporter on his 10th birthday.
What does your sign say?
It's my birthday, can I please have your autograph?
The West Indies also took the field this afternoon with Kavem Hodge and Justin Greaves, along with paceman Shamar Joseph, named to play their first tests. Captain Craig Brathwaite expects them to show plenty of fight.
They're here playing. And performance is always important, so I urge each player to go there and make a name for yourselves and play Test cricket for the next 10 years. Simple.
The West Indies go into the match as heavy underdogs, having not beaten Australia in a test in almost 21 years. Cameron Slesser, ABC News.
Western Australian cyclist Sam Welsford has won the first stage of this year's Tour Down Under. It was the opening day of the international season, with riders facing a gruelling 144-kilometre stage through South Australia's Barossa Valley. Jackson Medway was a late casualty in a painful fall onto the bitumen as the peloton positioned for a final sprint to the finish line. It was Welsford who prevailed in a mad dash in the town of Tanunda, a memorable victory on his first day of racing for the Bora Hansgrohe team.
Yeah, wow. That was crazy. I'm lost for words. It was really hairy down the hill, lots of crashes and near misses, but boys just kept calm, be patient, and wow, they did an amazing job for me today.
Now, athletes around the world are deep into qualifying events for this year's Paris Olympics. Among them are 2 young Australians. They have big plans to represent their nation and their generation as the Games turn to street sports to try and attract new audiences.
Here. Chloe Cavell is kick-flipping her way to the top. The 13-year-old skateboarder went from 5th to 4th ranked in the world at the recent WST Street World Championships in Tokyo. She's been training hard near her home in Tweed Heads.
Yeah, I've been skating pretty well lately. I just landed a new trick yesterday.
Chloe is among the next generation of Olympic hopefuls, competing in sports that are fresh off the streets.
It's always great to have new sorts in it, and yeah, so happy for skating to be in there.
It's great for the new generations that are coming along, you know, it's the types of things that they're interested in.
While skateboarding featured at the Tokyo Olympics, breaking makes its first appearance in 2024. Northern New South Wales teen Jeff Dunn will be there vying for gold.
I feel very proud and honoured to be there, you know, especially it being introduced to the Olympics and it's first every year, you know.
Breaking is among 9 sports making a debut at the Paris Olympics. Organisers want to build a temple of urban sports at the Place de la Concorde in the centre of the city to showcase the breaking and skateboarding events.
I think they're going to prove their worth at the Olympics, and I think a lot of people that disagree that it should be in the Olympics, I think their minds will change after they witness it firsthand what these athletes are capable of.
So perfect. Young Australians breaking down Olympic traditions. Hannah Ross, ABC News, Tweed Heads.
And we're the time now with Jenny Woodward. And Jenny, we're hearing a lot of talk about a cyclone.
Yes, Lexy, there is potential, but not until late in the weekend. Hello, everyone. Well, as expected, this low has developed off the north tropical coast, and it's going to track east with the cyclone risk increasing to high by late Sunday. But it will be a long way off the coast, about 1,000 kilometres, and there's a lot of uncertainty about what happens next, if indeed it does develop. And the Bureau is watching it closely. Today, wet with showers and storms across much of the state. In the tropics overnight, the Cardwell Range had 156 millimetres and there was 134 at Bingle Bay, which is just south of Innisfail. But in the southeast, also some big falls about overnight, 150 millimetres at Springbrook, Upper Springbrook that is, and Burleigh Waters picked up 114. Another steamy day, very hot in the west, 40 and more, but the cloud keeping a lid on the figures in the northwest of the state, 34 this afternoon at Burketown, 32 in Normanton. We had persistent showers across the city today. The heavier falls on the south side and around the bay. Manly had 41 millimetres and Bellbird Park 43. And temperatures today 28, 29 degrees. Let's check our photos. And Janine caught a stunning sunset at her place at Hazelwood Station, which is just south of Hewenden. David showed real commitment and pushed out into the waves for this shot at Miami. Cobb and the Medivac team had a busy day at Stratty. The storms were constantly chasing them as they made their crossings to the mainland. While Kathy was doing rescues of a different kind with the RFDS, and she framed up the plane right under a rainbow, which seems fitting. Now let's look at the satellite, and the low over the territory looks very impressive. That cloud swirling around it, some big totals there, and we've got big storm areas over the southern states, some warnings in there, and another line developing there just to the east of Perth. So a cooler day for the southern capitals as a new front comes through. We'll have storms and 23 degrees in Canberra, Melbourne and Hobart, but Adelaide should have a mostly sunny day and 23 degrees for the cricket. On to the chart, and the monsoon will maintain the unstable conditions across the north, and today we've also seen some patchy rain and squally conditions about the Gulf Coast in that northwesterly flow. The Tasman High is moving away, so that's allowing the coastal showers to ease, and it will also allow this inland trough to make a move. So tomorrow, showers and potentially severe storms heading east. They'll reach the southeast coast on Thursday and Friday. Let's check forecasts, and we've got rain showers and potentially severe storms across the north, 33 expected in Cairns and Townsville. Severe storms are also possible about the southern interior, the slight chance of showers and storms over central parts as well, and staying hot, 43 in Birdsville again. There's a risk of severe cells on the Granite Belt tomorrow, a top of 28 for Applethorpe and Toowoomba, and we'll have some showers and storms closer to the coast as well, 31 in Gympie. Storms are possible in the city too, a high chance of showers, 31 the top temperature, 32 for Ipswich. And on the bay, southeasterlies at 10 to 15 knots. They'll turn northeasterly below 10 knots by evening, and seas will be under a metre. And that cloudy wet weather's going to stay with us until next week. Friday and Saturday, the wettest and hot away from the coast too, Lexy, up to 35 degrees in Ipswich on Friday.
It's all over the place. Thanks, Jenny. And that is news to the moment. Thanks for your company. Now it's time for Laura Tingle with 7:30. Good night.